and the diffidence of its looks. Maybe Sarah Rose, her mother, stitched the same when she was a child. It's Sarah Rose's job, as it will be Susan's, to make the coverlets, the quilts, the dresses, the petticoats, the corsets, the pantaloons, the trousers, and the jackets. Sarah Rose's family depends upon her skill to keep them clothed, warm, respectable, and in fashion. Their clothes, the stitched objects in their home, signify their class and status in this world, and influence every element of their lives, from love to business. Susan has been sewing since she was 3. Next, she cross-stitches the phrase, "Be good and be happy." She makes the red stitches in X's across the linen, carefully pressing the needle in and out, piercing the white cloth at the top and bottom of each X, until she's built a B out of what feels like 100 small X's, and then the E, and so on. Her mother is satisfied with her stitches. She does not ask Susan to tear them out. They remain. 100 years later, Susan's grandnephew Franklin would find this sampler, along with 3 quilt tops, in a trunk that traveled from Charleston back to Providence and remained sealed shut after Susan's heartbreak. Franklin would be the first to examine its contents in almost 100 years, and I would be the first to fall in love with the quilt and its story after he passed away, another near century later. On the first day, before I even saw the quilt tops, I was captured by their mystery, my sense of the secrets they must hold, and the knowledge that I'd get to touch the cloth and study hundreds of paper templates made from ephemera. As a quilter and writer seduced by the tactile and drawn to a good story, I approached them with wonder and delight. I was finishing a book on modern quilting and lived in a Rhode Island house built in 1738. It was rumored that George Washington stayed at this house in Little Rest on his way down to Delaware in 1781. I'd walk across the original wide pine floorboards in my apartment, the sound of squirrels chuckling in the walls throughout the winter, trying to imagine who else had walked these floors, if I might be walking in Washington's ghostly trace. When Prof. W. mentioned these quilt tops I might study, as part of a material culture theory course, I was intrigued. We knew only that they were made by a newlywed couple in Charleston, South Carolina. He was a doctor who worked on the quilts with his wife when he had a difficult case, and donated in 1952 by a colonial revivalist from Providence. It was a snowy winter day when Prof. W. led me down the overheated hall of the Textiles, Fashion Merchandising, and Design Department at the University of Rhode Island. With a jingling set of keys, she unlocked the old wooden door of the flat storage room, and once inside, slid open the metal drawer of what looked like a map case. As it opened, I saw the first quilt top, its sky blue, red plaid, white floral, green zigzag hexagons slowly revealed. My intrigue became entrancement. I couldn't wait to touch it. Prof. W. slid both arms underneath it, gently, as if it were a sickly lamb. The only sound was the crinkle of the tissue paper that had been set between its layers to keep it from pressing against itself in storage. She set it down on top of the case and slid her arms out from underneath. "The papers are fragile in the back," she said. "Every time you move them, a few crumbs fall away." We looked over the front of the quilt, unfolded it once, and found a central star of colorful calico hexagons with a white center, and around the star, flowers of hexagons separated by rows of white hexagons, some of which were yellow and brown with age, that checks, stripes, indigos, chintzes, calicos, drabs, and rainbow prints dazzled me. There were white parrots' heads framed in repeating hexagons around a central patch of red, sweet red ginghams and plaids, a pink floral print on a white background. I imagined the maker's hands on the quilt, sewing what today we quippily call hexies, in just the same way I've been taught. Make the paper template, baste the scrap of fabric over each edge, then whip-stitch them together, and finally remove the paper template. Since these tops had never been finished,